Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our show, What Really Matters NYC. Thanks for hanging with us as we started up there. We were going to have another guest, but he didn't show up, so we're going to start with our guest that we've got in our studio. And his name is Mikail Kamal, right? Did I say that right?
That's right.
And, you know, we're trying to change the narrative here about What Really Matters NYC because we've talked a little bit about so much negative things over the summer with shootings and murders, and even this week in the news we've had some horrible things happen. And probably the one that was that really struck me earlier this week was, of course, for a mother, grief and anger after the police fatally shot her son, Cecilia Reyes. We all know, of course, that her son, Noel Polanco, was shot without a weapon. He didn't have one. It was very sad for the mother. And, you know, we could go into that, but rather than doing that, we thought we would take a moment to talk about some positive things in the world that have to do with mothers, to kind of build on that and take that energy and do something positive with it. And there was a story in the New York Times this week about the Clinton Foundation, actually, and it talked a little bit about this company called Bayer, the German pharmaceutical company, and it's going to cut the price of its implantable contraceptives for 27 million women in poor countries around the world under a deal worked out with international donors. And Bayer will have the price of its something called its implant, its implantable birth control. It's a match-sized stick that is injected under the skin to slowly release a birth control hormone. And these work up for 5 years, and a woman can take them out if she wants to have children. Implants are popular in poor countries, especially for women living far from pharmacies or wanting to hide their contraceptive use. You know, people sometimes, some places in the world have to do that. And the World Health Organization says that spacing births 2 years apart and breastfeeding lowers the chances of death for both mothers and babies. So this helps with the mortality rates as well. And this deal was brokered by the Clinton Health Access Initiative. And it really is something great where you stop and, you know, realize that there are wonderful things that do happen in the world, and that people, despite all the bad news that we always focus on all the time, that some people do some really amazing things, and this was one of them that came out this month. And of course, I don't know if you know this, but this is, I think it's National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and there's been an awful lot of mother activities around. And I met this gentleman who has a company called MedStarter, and they have this program called the Million Mothers Program, and I was going to ask him, Mikail, about that. Are you familiar with that? And can you tell us a little bit about MedStarter?
So MedStarter is, as some of you might be familiar with, Kickstarter. Kickstarter is for, like, you know, like when people, if they have an invention, they could post it on Kickstarter, and it's basically a crowdfunding platform.
Okay.
Now, MedStarter is Kickstarter for medical devices or medical innovations that people come up with, which Kickstarter usually they don't fund.
Okay.
Fundraise for.
So, so this is a way, MedStarter is a way for people to support initiatives which are innovative in the medical area?
Exactly, but they tend to, like, usually it's startups that have a new invention, or, like, you know, college graduates like myself that have an invention that they're trying to get off the ground and actually get out of the market where people really need it.
And what college are you from?
So I just graduated from Columbia University. I was a biomedical engineering and math major.
Okay.
And while at Columbia, a few of my friends and I, we actually invented a low-cost device that helps manage postpartum hemorrhage.
Postmortem hemorrhage, okay.
Postpartum hemorrhage.
What is that?
Postpartum.
What's that?
So postpartum hemorrhage is the excessive bleeding that women experience after giving birth. Now, everyone bleeds a little after they deliver a child.
Yeah.
But about 10% of all deliveries in the world, women, their uterus does not, the uteruses don't contract back to the size that it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And when it's not contracting, it just continues to bleed because it's really stretched out. You know,
so
the child was
10% of women suffer this, and then what happens
worldwide.
to them?
And you know, like if it would happen to someone in a developed nation like America or somewhere in Europe, they would give you an injection with oxytocin, take you to the OR, do a surgery, you'll be okay. Chances of survival are much, much higher. But in the developing nations, such as, you know, in Southeast Asia and African nations, what ends up happening is a lot of these mothers, they deliver at home.
Okay.
And they often live far, far away from a hospital setting. So by the time they realize that the woman has PPH, they literally bleed out along the way to the hospital.
Oh, how horrible.
Yeah.
So you're you have an idea. We'll come to your idea in a second, and you work with MedStarter to kind of get this idea out into a catalog of other ideas, sort of?
So basically what MedStarter is helping us do is they're basically helping us fundraise
Okay.
get our initial seed funding, so we could go ahead and do the clinical studies.
Okay.
And attract some big donors. So they're basically acting almost like an incubator to us.
Okay.
Helping promote us, telling other people about us, helping make connections in the field, things like that.
Excellent. So I think we have a video of your device, and what we'll do is we'll switch real quickly here to this screen and see if we can take a look at it and maybe run this video. Let's see here, right here. Here, Lorraine, I'm going to put you on the. Hey, Lorraine.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that I'm not surprised that Bill Clinton's foundation or whatever is for contraception for women. Did it ever occur to him that maybe he could have contraception for men someday, like now?
We can get to that.
Instead of always being on the women to have the implantable device and all these things we have to put in ourselves. What about the men, Mr. Bill Clinton?
Well, that's a thought, Lorraine. It's a thought. That's a good thought.
It's not a new thought, but I was thinking maybe Mr. Mikail could work on that.
Well,
for the whole world.
Yeah, well, he's got another device. Actually, I think he stays away from the controversial area. He's just working on the other side of it. But let me play this video of his device, okay? So you can see for yourself, and then you can comment. All right?
Okay, I'm waiting.
Okay, well, relax a second. We'll get right to it here. Yeah. Cool. Well, Lorraine?
Yes.
Did you catch that?
I'm kind of flabbergasted.
Well, you know, I wanted to ask Mikail about it because it's a very interesting, it looks so easy, but the way it looks like it works, that you go in and you, want to explain how it works?
Sure. So basically, you know, postpartum hemorrhage is it's capillary bleeding from a uterus after childbirth, and you can imagine having a small cut on your hand, and if you were to stop the bleeding, you would apply pressure on it.
Yes.
So we take that same concept and we apply it to the uterus. So basically what we do is we take a simple male condom, a lubricated male condom, and using our device, we inflate it into the uterine cavity. And then that applies pressure onto the uterine wall so that it slows down and even sometimes stops the bleeding completely.
Okay. So this is a brilliant idea of using existing stuff, right, basically.
Exactly.
So, and it doesn't look complicated, but it saves lives. And my question is you put in there in the video sprinkle of innovation. What does that mean, that sprinkle of innovation? What happened there?
Well, there are a lot of similar devices out on the market right now. They tend to be very, very expensive, and you need a doctor to actually use it, like a physician or a surgeon to use it.
Yeah.
One of the things we wanted to do was we wanted to make this device so that a simple birthing attendant or a simple midwife with no medical training could use this. And one of the things, also, other thing is a lot of these other devices, they're very expensive, several $100s. Our device costs less than $10. So we really needed to be innovative on how to lower the cost. So one of the innovative things we have was a male condom that we use. So, you know, like usually a male condom has that stigma to itself, you know, sex and things like that, but we actually took that, something that no one would think about using, stop being uterus hemorrhaging. And we used that to actually do something completely different.
Sure, but how did that idea happen? Did it evolve over time between 2 or 3 of you, or was the condom wrapper on the table and someone just said, "Oh, let's do that"? Well, what was that innovation moment that you, as a New Yorker, you went to high school here too, right?
Right.
And Columbia University, and you know all these things are sparking around in lots of people's head. But how did it happen with you? This idea with you guys?
So we actually, we knew we had this was a part of a year-long senior design project at Columbia at biomedical engineering major. Starting from the very beginning, we knew we wanted to do something global health related, and we sort of stumbled upon PPH and things like that. But when we were designing the device, we knew first thing we wanted to make it really cheap, as cheap as possible, and we wanted to make it simple. And using those constraints, we also knew that we needed something that would apply pressure onto the uterine wall without using a fancy balloon and things like that. We tried a variety of things, including like simple water balloons that you could buy at a 99-cent store.
Mm-hmm.
And basically one of us one day were like, why don't we just use a condom? And we tried it.
Just one of you just said that one day.
We were just brainstorming, and we were just making a list of different things we could inflate.
Yeah.
And we decided to use a condom. We even used a glove. Like surgical glove.
I see.
We went through a variety of things, and we decided to use a condom, and it just worked. We were just surprised how well it worked.
And so would you say that your innovative thinking was driven by the constraint of the cost? Or what made you guys kind of spit this answer out the other end the most, just from an innovation point of view?
So 2 things that drove us were definitely, the first was definitely the cost, and the second was availability. Because if you were to use a fancy balloon or things like that, it's hard to get. It's hard to manufacture, they're expensive, and if you damage one, you have to replace it quickly. The thing with condoms is that they're widely available, they're cheap, and they're sterile to begin with. You don't have to pre-sterilize the entire device.
Sure.
So.
Of course, yeah. Well, that's fantastic. And you sort of had to go from the big picture of the problem to the small picture of the solution in a way that's economical and scalable for the most people. So what are you guys looking for at this point? Thanks for coming in and chatting with us about this and telling us about MedStarter. I guess it's medstarter.com?
Medstarter.com.
And how do you spell it? MEDSTARTR?
Exactly.
.com. And people can go there and they can find your project?
Yep, we're actually on their homepage right now, and we're featured on the homepage. And if you go there, they have several projects. They're just like Kickstarter.
Yeah.
They have several projects. You could choose which project to back, but...
Are you familiar with the Million Mothers campaign?
Yes, we are. So basically, that's a new campaign that MedStarter recently started, beginning of this month. It's basically a project where they try to get different projects, maternal health projects, and the goal is to basically save mothers throughout the world, especially in developing nations.
Excellent. I think so. The goal is to save 1 million mothers.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.